what specific outcomes would you hope to achieve through training in leadership and culture building?
Plenty. Let's see which one to start with. For example, I think if you're going to train your leaders, you need to start by thinking, why do I need to do that? And what kind of training do they need to have for us to get the outcome that we want to have? But from everything I've learned, both through my career, but also through reading and, scientific studies on workforces and such, it feels quite clear to me that if we have a workforce, for example, that feels good, they feel like they can express themselves, they feel like they have a work-life balance, they are happy to pursue the things they have the tools in place to do their best. And if we can create that culture, and all I can see is profit, because that's where it leads to. When you have the most brilliant people satisfied and with the right tools, you can get them to reach heights which were not possible before. You can create better teams. You can make them more effective. You could, over time, just let them work for the same pay in 4 days a week and not having to do anything on Friday if they want to. So for me, the main end goal might be that the company is more profitable. But I wouldn't want a workforce that is profitable feels shitty, because that would feel hurtful to me as a person. So it's a combination goal of a profitable company and humane workforce logic, if one can call it that.
Sure. So I really like what you said, and yes, feel free to swear on here. As you can tell, I'm a little less formal than I might be. I've had some sort of mental conflict and conflict with other people saying, but Tim, that's such a terrible first impression. It's like, this is Japan and it's really hot. I could either be drenched in sweat and look like I've run a marathon wearing a nice business suit, or I could wear this, live to my environmental ethics, that if I wear more than this, then I have to turn up my air conditioning, and it's already on pretty high. So yeah, but I
think
really
the climate will probably just applaud you for having less AC and less clothes.
That's my moral position. It's sort of like, I do want to give the good impression, but if somebody listens to what I do for more than about 5 seconds, they realize my IQ is not lowered, but if anything, and because my background is neuroscience, I will argue very, very insistently, raised by an increased level of physical comfort of my body. So I'm smarter like this, maybe by just a fraction, a quarter of an IQ point, than with a suit on, always thinking about how uncomfortable I am, where my attention is taken away from what I'm doing.
But you know that Swedes in general aren't dressing up as business casual even in most companies here.
Awesome.
And especially in a designing company, you will be quite relaxed. I mean, I don't have a suit on and I'm the CEO.
Well, you're a little more formal than me though. But the other thing I really liked about what you said.
That's because I had an interview before meeting you.
There you go.
Interviewed and recruit.
So the other thing I really liked about your previous answer is the fact that you talked about, if it's driven by increasing the bottom line, which things like psychological safety and that drives discretionary effort virtually always improves, because if they don't hate you, they might be willing to stay that extra 15 minutes, do that extra care. But if they hate you, the boss or the leader, well, then they can just go, well, I can't get caught doing something that I know that's harming the company, and I don't care because I hate them, because they make me feel bad every time I'm anything less than perfect. You should expect that as a leader if you treat people poorly. But that increase in profit, which is almost inevitable if you lead well and in a good culture, that if you can't feel good about that, as you said, if I feel shitty about making it profitable, then it's not good. Now, short of getting sued, I can think of one of the biggest companies in the world who should feel bad about the way they make profit. They're very good at what they do, but I couldn't see myself working for them, because I wouldn't feel good about the way they behave in business with literally everybody except their customers. Everybody else they treat poorly and they're famous for it. To me, that's not okay. That's not a world I would like to facilitate.
And if you take a comparison between a company that has a good, strong value-based culture, which they work dedicatedly with over several years and kind of never dropping the stick on it, or dropping the ball on it, maybe is the expression. And you compare it to a company who's driven by just profit, 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 profit. We think the profit will make everyone feel happy and the company grow, and but if you compare those two companies to each other over time, I'm 100% certain that we will see more profit in the company which keeps its employees, who have less sick leave, who has a better work culture, probably profit over time, just because you do something like sick leave.
And there's research to support.
Expensive here at it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's research to support that, whether you talk about Jim Collins in Great by Choice or Good to Great, or Bob Sutton and Huggy Rao in Scaling Up Excellence, or a lot of other ones, that if it wasn't their own research, they point to research all over the place. Like even in Silicon Valley, it was like when you're selecting your employees, that who is the superstar, it's not that there isn't something to that, but if those superstars are sort of abusive or generally bad to work with, in actually Bob Sutton, one of his books is called The No Asshole Rule, and I love it because it really gets to the honest point that even if you're a superstar but you treat people badly, that is not good for your company. And even the most famous asshole in the world, Steve Jobs, what he did was, he was famous. Now, people like Ed Catmull talk about him very affectionately. They don't deny how he was young, but that he got better over time, which is good. But you also, in the companies where people feel unhappy, and I just finished a book by the company I was mentioning, whose name I'm avoiding, that it is pretty much a foregone conclusion that a lot of the top talent is going to leave. It seems almost like it's expected because it's an adversarial culture. It's a sort of Darwinian culture where people aren't feeling good. They're not feeling secure in their jobs. Mistakes are punished either immediately or shortly thereafter. So you're hiding mistakes rather than revealing them. And in the research around that, medical care clinics, they found that at first that mistakes, they documented that mistakes went up. And then they found it wasn't that mistakes went up, it was that the reporting of mistakes went up, which had the ultimate long-term effect of making better methodologies in preventing mistakes. At first, it was like, well, we have the lowest. It was like, no, you're just the best at hiding your mistakes, which are literally potentially costing lives because you don't feel safe to prove you're not perfect. And that when
of course, if we have employees who doesn't feel safe to point out what's wrong, there will be a lot of troubles following that. For example, in our industry, if we do a project and we deliver something, we always also do like an internal review before sending the documents out, for example. And that's like crazy important steps for us to learn from. And if people don't make mistakes, they will not learn as well as if they do everything perfectly all the time. So I feel it's very important that people are allowed to feel safe to express and feel comfortable with doing something wrong. So I totally understand why science would say that it's bad not to be able to express your fears of failures.
Right. Well, and that goes into both growth mindset and psychological safety. I didn't learn about them from the academic research. I learned their names from the academic research, but I'm going to be honest with you, any conscientious teacher who's worth their salt and actually cares about their students, they learn it in the classroom. I had students who were, in Angela Duckworth, when she talks about grit, who pointed me towards Carol Dweck regarding psychological safety. All that they said, it was like, yeah, I know you have been in a real classroom because I've been there too. Some of my most challenged students, now we're talking about on the edge of developmental disabilities, not there, but clearly more challenging to think and understand things than anybody in the classroom. But this particular individual that I'm thinking of, he loved me because I never really made him feel like if he didn't understand, it's like, that's okay, you tried. And real try, not fake try. Not 8th place trophies for, like I said, breathing or being in the room or anything like that, but he tried at his level and he was never made to feel bad. So total growth mindset that later I learned the name from
Yeah.
the academic research. So I've seen it, especially in the classroom with language. So next one.